Online. Thank you. And, thank you. So we continue with our reading from Isopanisad. And I think we'll do the verses today, 9, 10, and 11. 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's the target today. Let's do that. But before we start, we'll offer our Mangalacharan prayers and get started. Anand Vrindavan Mataji, Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Ragnathanbitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhayascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. If you want to sit, please sit on the seats. You don't have a seat. Thank you. So we completed 8 verses of Isopanisad. The first verse was the invocation verse, Om Purnamadaha. After the invocation, the first verse was Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam, where we discussed about how everything in this world, both animate and inanimate, belongs to Krishna. And one should consume what is set aside for one's own quota. In the second verse, we discussed this is the only way for mankind. This is the law of karma cannot be overcome by any other way. And and in the third verse, we discussed about the destination of those who disregard completely the laws of God. Did we discuss in the fourth? What is the fourth verse about? Anejadekam, right? We discussed about Krishna being farther than farthest and exactly all those things. Then what happened in fifth? Mantra 5. Perfect. Walks and does not walk. The inconceivable qualities of Krishna. Sixth. He who sees everything in all relationships, yastu sarvani bhutani. And then the seventh mantra was, I think we continued with that. We discussed about the three types of devotees, the Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. And then the eighth one was specifically focused on God. Aparyaga Chukramapayam Avranam Ashnaviram. And the purport, actually, you'll see everything is mentioned. So let's do mantra 9 today. Andam tama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya u vidyayam rataha andam tama pravishanti ye vidyam upasate
ये विद्याम् उपासते
tato bhuya ivate tamo
ततो भूय इव ते तमो
ya u vidyayam rataha.
यायौ विद्यातताम् रताः.
Thank you, Naveen. Translation, Mataji, please.
Those who engage in the culture of nation activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge.
So when I heard this verse for the first time, I was completely confused. So those who engage in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. And that's understandable for a man who has no sense control or self-control and live life willy-nilly. But what did it mean? Worse are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Means you shouldn't even do it. I mean, ignorance leads to some dark destination. But cultivation of knowledge is even darker. Then should I make my child illiterate? Not even. So we'll read few paragraphs of the purport and then we can get to that. So let's start with paragraph 1 and then we can move forward. First paragraph, please.
This mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but Vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Sri Isopanisad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect.
Thank you. So, and next paragraph, please.
As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
So here we get the first clue of so-called Vidya. Srila Prabhupada here writes that in the situation of Kali Yuga, where everybody is in the darkness or the grip of darkness, and people who come along to say that I can fix this situation by doing some adjustments, that sort of avidya or ignorance is even more dangerous. Let me give an example. Let me give an example. In the modern world, there is a free union between man and women with no restrictions. People have no sort of, married, not married. Right now, it really doesn't matter. People have no rules and regulations. But there is always the fear that, children can be born because of such activities. And then here comes a whole industry that says, you can take this sort of device or this sort of pill or this sort of medication. You will not have to face that problem. We are here to solve that problem. Now think about the dangerous aspect of it. People are in the ignorance, they are not able to see the spiritual life. But then when you have this, then under that spell, oh yes, we have this educated person who can solve our problem, but you can see where that education is going to lead. And, it's true of modern perspective. Even Prahlad Maharaj says the same thing in Bhagavatam, that on a material platform, you find the solution to a material problem, that solution itself will become a problem. 100 years ago, we started digging the earth for petrol or gas. And, there's a whole automotive industry that came about. And today you can see that solution now itself has become a problem. Now, the ozone emissions and so on and so forth. You can see how in the modern world it is the so-called education can be a dangerous thing. So that is the first level of ignorance. Avidya, when Srila Prabhupada or this mantra says that those who are in the path of ignorance are going to darkness, but those who are on the path of quote-unquote education. And that's why Prabhupada carefully uses the word so-called education. If you see the translation, he doesn't say education. He says so-called education. Make sense? So, and that's true of many things. Yeah. See, the thing is, ISKCON is not against, we are not against technological advancement. But the problem is that without Krishna, you can explain everything, you can solve everything, you can adjust everything and be happy here. Therein lies the problem. Because this world belongs to Krishna, we belong to Krishna. How can you be happy in this world without following his instructions? If you are a tenant, then the landlord will say, look, you have certain rules to follow. Lights out after 10, no allowed parties. Yeah, right? Anywhere where you go into a rental agreement, you'll sign a contractual agreement. Okay, Bhagavatam said sold. KP. And if you violate the clauses of rental agreement, then there will be repercussions and ramifications. You cannot live wantonly and wildly. Same way, this earth is a rental property, and we are the tenants. At any time, Krishna can say, "All right, your lease is up. Thank you very much. Good to see you." And you can take the next body. But then Krishna is saying that should one live in a paralysis of fear? No, Krishna is not saying this. As long as you abide by the rental rules, you live very happily in the rental property if you continue to live. So Krishna is saying spiritual life and all that is too much. If you can't, then at least worship demigods. He says in the 3rd chapter, if you come to this world, demigod, you have to eat by living grains. You don't have a choice on that front. And grains come from rains. And rains are performed. Rains are given by performance of yajna. And that is the rule, or that is a rental contract I have set up. You do the yajnas for the demigods will give you everything that you need. You both will be happy. That is the system, that rental contract I have set up. But if you don't, then we can see how it will happen. For 4 years you'll have drought, and then for 1 year you'll have excessive rain, and that's another problem. Right? So this is the first level of avidya or ignorance, Srila Prabhupada writes. Okay, I have to take a Bhagavatam set as well. I think I have sponsored few. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Prabhu.
So, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Here, Prabhupada says Vidya means it's already explained in the first verse, which is remembrance of, not remembrance, understanding that Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, right? Now, the Shastra already, this Upanishad established what Vidya is. But in 9th verse, it says, it uses the same word Vidya to lead to darkness. Right. Nowhere it talked about Vidya means material knowledge. It already established Vidya means spiritual knowledge. And it uses the same word in 9th verse to denote degradation.
So hold that thought. When we do the next verse, then we'll get a little more info. Okay. But we'll come back to the question. Okay, so the next level of avidya is mentioned is, or vidya is mentioned is paragraph 5, and it's according to, if you go down a little bit, Mata, Krishangi Mataji, just a little bit down. According to, I think, yes, you have to go down a little bit. Yeah, it's still more. Yes, please go down. More. Yeah, according to. So please read that paragraph. Who is the next person to read?
According to the Bhagavad Gita 2.42, 7.15, mistaken mundane educators are known as Vedavadarata and Mayaya Paharata Gnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Vedavadarata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Vedavadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven.
So this is the second level. So I have a question for you, Prabhu. If you know Vedas, then are you learned? Are you in the path? Is the Vidya? Not materialistic like whatever I discussed. So the same thing applies to Vedas as well. Krishna says that Vedas mainly deal with the three modes of material nature. Traigunya, Vishaya, Veda. So it's, even if you are learned in Vedas, technically you are having Vidya, but Krishna is saying that kind of Vidya actually is little dangerous, because then you will realize, and if you really want to get into that, the second chapter actually gives, Krishna is very strongly against that those who are influenced by the flowery language of Vedas, they think that attainment to heaven and the sensual pleasures that you get by attaining to heaven, that is just the end goal of Vedas. There is nothing more to it. And that is perfect. And this can, because sense gratification is common to both the good and the demoniac people, so everybody can use Vedas actually to to propagate more danger. So the Vedavada Rathas are that aspect. And because if you don't know the purpose of Vedas, then you will be diverted by the flowery language of Vedas. So are you educated or are you uneducated? You are educated because you know Vedas, but still because you are missing the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, you still are uneducated. And based on Vedic knowledge, you can actually be more dangerous. Buddha, when he came, there was indiscriminate animal killing in the name of Vedas. The people were using Vedas to kill animals, and Lord Buddha incarnated, one of the incarnations of the Lord. He incarnated and he said, forget Vedas, there is no Vedas, and he promoted non-violence. So knowing in a half-baked way. So two or three things. Using one's intelligence and false ego without understanding the spirituality, knowing Vedas but not understanding the purpose. And we have the third category. So we have the gross materialist educators, they are the Vedavada Ratas, and the third category of the avidya who are dangerous are called, in the next paragraph it's there. Not next. So that's the last, the Maya Pahrita. Thank you. If you go down a little bit more. Yes, thank you. Please read that, the next.
The Maya Pahrita Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all-powerful, then there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves.
The Maya Pahrita Jnana is that those whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion. Maya Aprahata Jnana. So that is the thing. And these class of men think somehow or other I have become God. I am. So these are the two classes of avidya. Because please understand that the Mayavad philosophy is not based on some fanciful, may I hesitate to use the word Harry Potter series. It's not, Mayavad philosophy is not based on the writings of Harry Potter series. It's Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra. So you have built up your whole premise that you are God based on scriptures. That's why it is so dangerous. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has warned that if you read Mayavad, then the flowery language and the logic and just, there is a scriptural reference, Upanishads say this, how can we be wrong? And you can see how it goes. So one of the things as Bhakti Sastri that we are doing is, then how do we learn to discriminate? Because at one time we had Prabhupada's books, and that was the only books. Now we have so many books written by so many authors, and all of them seem to be seemingly based on scriptures. So how do we, it's mentioned here that any conclusion given by the author which opposes the central idea of Krishna and the supremacy of the Lord is false. It's because, so the Mayavad philosophy is based on the foundation Tattvam Asi. Tat means therefore, Pam means you, Asi. Tat means that. That, therefore you are. Means you are that God. But Tattvam Asi from the scriptural perspective means you are God-like. You are particle of God. You have the same spiritual nature of God. So you can see how that you are that can get changed to saying you are God if you don't do it correctly. Is that helpful? Shubham? All right. So we'll move on to the next verse. If there are any questions, you can raise your hand on the online section or in the class, and then we can stop. Mantra 10. Anyadevahur vidyaya Anyadahur avidyaya Iti shushrumadhiranam Enastad vichachakshire. Translation. You got a chance to read? Okay.
The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience.
here, one of the things, Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, if you go deeply, there is this fascinating debate about matter and God. Whether matter comes from God, and what is the relationship between God and matter. In fact, it's mentioned that matter is God, as in like the matter is the energy of God, and God is energetic, who is the source of matter. And there is no difference between energy and energetic, which means that you see this matter, but in one sense, it's not different from Krishna, because he pervades this whole matter, and without his potency, the matter will not work. And there is no difference between energy and energetic. But then the question will come, if there is no difference between energy and energetic, then why do you even perform spiritual life? Because you are serving matter, enjoying sense gratification is serving matter, it's the same thing. Am I logically making sense? But here, Isopanisad says, nope. The reason is, Krishna is saying is Bhinna Prakriti. That matter of mine, it's my energy, and you, Jiva, are my energy, but the matter is so powerful it can cover you. It can completely overpower you and give you a forgetfulness of me. And if you continue to serve matter, then you will just be in the matter. But if you have to rise above matter, and that is Jiva's task and Krishna's order. So both have to work. So that's the reason why continuing sense gratification is not the same. And Krishna wouldn't say that, if that is the case, Krishna would say, do sense gratification or spiritual realization, you will come back to me anyways. But he says, nope. He says, what is that? Matra asparshastu. No. What's that? 522. Uh, 522. Mateshura Mate Buddha. Thank you. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantu kaunteya nateshura mate bhuja. So he says that yehi means that this sort of happiness, samsparsha means with contact, bhoga is happiness, but this is the very source of distress. There is a beginning and there is an end. The wise don't delight in them. So you can see how Krishna is giving warning against sense gratification. And if matter and spirit and serving them both is the same, Krishna wouldn't say this. He would say, serve matter, serve spirit, it's one and the same. Make sense? So in the same way, let's read for the first paragraph. It's Srila Prabhupada, it's a long paragraph. We can go over the 18 items, but Srila Prabhupada gave it succinctly. So please do the first paragraph. Mantra 10. You done, right? So okay, yeah, please.
10th, right?
So as advised.
Yes, as advised, the whole 18.
As advised in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, 13.8.12, one should culture knowledge in the following way. One should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respect to others. Second, one should not pose himself as a religionistic simply for name and fame. Third, one should not become a source of anxiety to others by the actions of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. Fourth, one should learn forbearance even in the face of provocations from others. Fifth, one should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. Sixth, one should search out a bona fide spiritual master who can lead him gradually to the stage of spiritual realization, and one must submit himself to such a spiritual master, render him service, and ask relevant questions. Seventh, in order to approach the platform of self-realization, one must follow the regulative principles enjoined in the relieved scriptures. Eighth, one must be fixed in the tenets of revealed scriptures. 9th, one should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. 10th, one should not accept more than he requires for the maintenance of the body. 11th, one should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own. 12th, one should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face the miseries of the repeated birth, old age, disease, and death.
Mata, you can give it to Arjun, please, the last one.
There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the
Oh,
material.
I'm so sorry. I thought you completed it. My apologies.
Should I continue?
Please.
Of the material body. The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain his spiritual identity. One should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. One should not be more attached to wife, children, and home than the revealed scriptures ordain. One should not be happy or distressed over desirables and undesirables, knowing that such feelings are just created by the mind. One should become an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and serve him with rapt attention. One should develop a liking for residence in a secluded place with a calm and quiet atmosphere, favorable for spiritual culture, and one should avoid congested places where non-devotees congregate. One should become a scientist or philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body. Should I continue, Prabhu?
I think we are good. You can give it to Bhumika Mataji. She can just do the next, till the end of the paragraph. These 18 items.
These 18 items combine to form a gradual process by which real knowledge can be developed. Except for these, all other methods are considered to be in category of nations. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great acharya, maintained that all forms of material knowledge are merely external features of the illusionary energy, and that by culturing them one becomes no better than an ass. This same principle is found here in Sri Isopanisad. By advancement of material knowledge, modern man is simply being converted into an ass. Some materialistic politicians in spiritual guise decry the present system of civilization as satanic. But unfortunately, they do not care about knowledge of real knowledge, the culture of real knowledge, as it is described in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Thus, they cannot change the satanic situation.
Thank you. So here Srila Prabhupada goes at length to explain how the modern society, because of this idea, false idea that somehow this world is mine and it's, think about it. I mean, like, people come and fight for this world, but then the world exists and people pass away. What's your point in fighting so much? I mean, as a Kshatriya, you need to do your duty. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I mean, I'll not pick up anybody because it's a little dark example. Because, if a person is at home peacefully sleeping or doing whatever he or she is doing, the robber, two robbers come and violently attack that person and beat him or her up and try to rob the house, and they are in the process of robbing the house, and somehow the person in the house calls 911, and then police comes, and they see that this person has been physically assaulted and injured, and then the person's possessions are being taken away, and the police says to the person, it's okay, just forgive the robbers, right? They just hit you, you have some stitches, bleed marks, they are taking away your things. Anyway, they are temporary. It doesn't work. because you have to do your duty of this world. But when in the modern context, people are suffering without food and other basic facilities, and government is spending 50% on defense, building up my identity of my country. And then you spend so much amount of resources on defense that people are hungry. And I don't know, if you can put in all the defense budget of all the countries of this world, you can solve so many problems. So, Srila Prabhupada actually, I am not making up, he mentions this in the purport, in this purport or the next. But it just like this nationalism and this sort of pride that comes in, which is against Krishna. He says, like, our earth, we are fighting for this land and that land. And my whole earth is like a mustard seed in the gigantic, if this room is the universe, then literally our earth is like that mustard seed. You place that mustard seed within the room somewhere, you'll not even see the significance of it. And on that mustard seed, we tiny like human beings are fighting, no, this land is mine, this land is yours. It seems a little ludicrous. That's where the problem comes. That's what Srila Prabhupada writes here. That, you get a different result. And the last thing he says is that spiritual knowledge comes by approaching spiritual master, and a adhira, or a person who is uncontrolled, can never give the right information. Any questions? Yes, Satat, and then Shubham.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So a follow-up to the statement you made that why people are fighting so much about creating national identity and like spending so much on defense budget even though people are dying from starvation. Okay, the situation is definitely ridiculous, but what's the remedy? Like, if I were a political leader of some country, then I definitely have to spend on defense, right? Because otherwise the other countries, they might attack me and claim of some of the land. So it's like a necessary evil kind of thingy. Like, is there a remedy or no?
So one remedy is that, you can always use diplomacy. For example, let me tell you one thing. There is something called NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, where a group of countries came together and they said that, if you attack one country, then you attack all the countries and everyone will come to you as support. There can be such agreements where the leader should say that, how can I reduce my defense budget at the cost of feeding, not at the cost of helping the poor. The problem, what is happening is defense has become such a vital role that unnecessary defense budgets are created for imaginary fears. That is my concern. When it comes to feeding the poor versus defense budget, some countries have gone overboard. I'll maintain my nuclear weapons, but let my people go to starve. What is it talking about? So where do the leaders draw a line between, because protection of the people is the first duty or dharma of a king according to Bhagavatam. Protection can come from building up defense, but at the same time, you have other means at your disposal. You can't blindly say that only defense is the way and then let my people go to hell. So where is the balance? That's where I'm trying to get at. Other thing, if Kshatriyas actually educate that people in Krishna consciousness or God consciousness to be a God conscious people, then automatically the fears and the wars will reduce a bit. But if you egoistically maintain my kingdom without consulting God or thinking that this is God's kingdom and I'm doing God's work, then you give in to imaginary fears and you start building up more and more. So that's where my point is. The lack of godlessness that's creeped upon politicians, prompting them to go only one way and excluding the poor people.
Okay, Ro, makes sense. Yeah, I like that point. Basically, by developing Krishna consciousness, at least we can see things more clearly and get rid of imaginary fears.
Correct. And then I come to know my duty is to take care of my people first, because I am going to hell, if I don't take care. And then the defense industry and the political, what is that? That's the exact word for it. I forgot. Defense industrial lobby corridor, something like that. They somehow need to manufacture weapons to keep themselves alive, and it's a very enmeshed situation where the common man is bearing the brunt. Is that helpful?
Yes, bro. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So in the beginning, in the translation part, you made the distinction that worshipping matter is distinct from, basically, you can't make the equanimity between Krishna and matter. So you can't make the point that I'm worshipping matter, so I'm worshipping Krishna. And then you mentioned that matter covers up our consciousness. Are you referring to Mahamaya?
Yes.
So a follow-up to that is, isn't Mahamaya also Krishna's spiritual energy, which gets basically takes all of this effect, because is it also temporary, how every other thing is in material terms, like Mahamaya then?
So Krishna's energies are eternal, but Mahamaya has the capacity to be transformed.
I see.
So there is a creation, maintenance and destruction that continuously happens, and the changes that happen.
Yeah.
Mahamaya is exerted or subject to the time of Krishna, whereas the Yogamaya is not, because it is subjected to time of Krishna and completed with three modes of material nature. There is this constant creation, maintenance, destruction, constant creation, maintenance. It's constant, but there is constant change.
Okay. Just a quick follow-up to that. So when Mahaprabhu presented Achintya Bheda Bhed philosophy, he didn't only, did he mention that Krishna is separate from all of his energy, simultaneous separation from all of his energies, or only Jiva and Maya?
There's no question of separation of energy. Krishna always has energies with him. So for example, the president went to India, president of the United States went to India, which means inherently his secret service must have gone with him. His bulletproof car must have gone with him. His Air Force One plane must have. So God, when you describe Krishna, it's never separated. Energies are always with him. But the Achintya Bheda Bheda comes from the fact that they are simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. And it's inconceivable, because, and if you really, really want to go to the deepest possible, you read Paramatma Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. He spent so much time, and our Bhagavad Sandarbha, he spent so much time arguing for so many things. If God is real and God is not subject to change, how can he produce? How can he produce something that is subject to change? If God is never change, he's formless, he's never changing, he's purely spiritual. From him, how can this matter come? And if matter comes, is it inferior to him? Is it superior to him? Is it equal to him? What is the connection with him? And he says, I have no connection with matter. Matter is coming from you. Then, and the matter doesn't work without you. Krishna says, I am within the matter. Right? Did we read Isopanisad? He is within everything and? Tell me, how is it possible? If you are within everything, which means God is in matter. So it's a very, very fascinating thing to know whether is matter coming from God? If so, what is the connection between matter and God? How can something transcendental produce something and not be touched by it? Oh, there are so many arguments if you go deep into it. And philosophers have really had struggle trying to connect these two together. But then the conclusion is that matter is simultaneously one with and different from Krishna. And it's inconceivable. That's why Achintya, the word Achintya is used.
So when you say matter, you mean both the Mahamaya Tattva and us Jiva Tattva, right?
Correct.
And like that is not applicable to spiritual energy, because we say when Krishna's words, like Hare Krishna is basically Krishna himself, or Krishna's Jyoti is Krishna himself.
Correct.
Okay, so this is only applicable to that.
Correct. And I'll give one crude example. Inconceivable as it is, there is some ways. Are the prisons run by government? The government said, let me, do some fun stuff. I'll create some prisons just for the heck of it. No. The prisons are run by the government, and the government creates, if there is a need, the government creates the prison, but government is not forcing the prisoners to go into prisons. They are going because of their crimes that they committed. Yet the prisons will not exist without government. You'll get a little bit of inkling on how this is, right? Okay, let's do next verse. Ramesh raised his hand. I saw that online.
Yes, Prabhu. Quick question, Prabhu.
Yes.
So at one point it is said one should not become a source of anxiety to others by the action of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. Could you please elaborate that, Prabhu?
So,
I mean, my question was, so in real life, for example, if I don't have a job, so my family members will be anxiety because he doesn't have a job or something like that. So at the same time, it is not my intention of creating that anxiety. So I don't understand how I should.
So here when it said one shouldn't be the source of anxiety for others by thought, mind, or words, as much as possible, one need not cause unnecessary grief to others. Grief that comes from false ego. I have seen, people have this insecurity that I need to be in control. And with that insecurity comes a desire to control others, and usually it is in the form of harsh words or doing something just to prove that I am in control. Let me cut off the power of these people to show I am the controller of power and just see how it goes. That Krishna is saying is just matter of false ego. You shouldn't be that unnecessary source of anxiety. And I have seen, sometimes parents wants to show they are boss. The child might have done or might not have done wrong. So there is a genuine need to correct the child versus just to show who's boss. And with that, you become an unnecessary source of anxiety. The same holds true of at multiple places. You have to be source of anxiety where there is a need for it, but otherwise no. And for who are Krishna conscious, you don't feel that I should dominate others to get my point across. So that is an unnecessary source of anxiety. There is also the necessary source of anxiety that you need to be. But that's a whole other point. Because Arjuna did not want to fight and he did not want to kill. So he didn't want to become the source of anxiety for the soldiers. But Krishna says, no, this is needed. So, but otherwise, by and large, there is no need to. At work also, just to show I am boss, I'll give you all sorts of work. Just for the sake of, it absolutely has no value. Do it because I said so. You get the idea? Is that helpful, Ramesh?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. And demoniac people by nature become source of anxiety for others. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and we have seen. So implicit in this statement is Prabhupada is saying, don't try to be, don't try to be a demoniac person. Because you'll become source for others' anxiety. The other last point is in our relationships, if you have differences, then to the best of our ability, we talk immediately and not be a source of anxiety. Otherwise, continuously for a long time, you won't speak and so on and so forth. It just causes unnecessary anxiety for both the parties. More questions? Next verse, please. Vidyam cha yas tadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva
Avidyaya mrityum tirtva
vidyayamritamashnuते.
vidyayamratam ashnute.
Vidyam cha yas
Vidyam cha yas
tadvedo bhayam saha
advedo bhayam saha
avidyaya mrityum tirtva
avidyaya mrityum tirtva
vidyayamritamashnuते. Okay, translation. Rupali, please go.
Translation. Only one who can learn the process of nations and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality.
Thank you. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning of the first few paragraphs, he talks about Hiranyakashipu. He talks that if you want to conquer death, then don't do it like Hiranyakashipu. And we know the story of how Hiranyakashipu performed such severe austerities that the whole universe was just getting disturbed. People couldn't take the heat of the universe that his austerities were generating. And his austerities were unparalleled. Brahma himself said, I cannot do austerities like you, and nobody has done austerities before. In fact, actually, the austerity was he stood on one toe, just the toe of his leg, only one leg, and he raised his arms and kept it like it. Literally, actually, in the beginning stages, I was pretty naive. I actually tried doing it. It was pretty difficult. It's hard because you can somehow balance in one leg like this, but you have to keep the hands like this and do it. It's not easy. I tried it for a few minutes. I miserably failed, I must confess. He did it for 1,000 years. He didn't move from that place. Rain, hailstorms, thunder, blazing sun, he didn't move. Then slowly the insects started eating away at his flesh. He didn't flinch. It became to the point that Brahma was Brahma was approached by other demigods. There is a serious problem in the universe. Please fix this. And actually he went to find Hiranyakashipu. He couldn't even find Hiranyakashipu because around him ants had created a big hill. And it said that he was able to keep his life alive by circulating his life airs through the bones for 1,000 years. And then when Brahma says, he takes the water from the Kamandalu and puts it, and then Hiranyakashipu gets his magnificent form, strong as thunderbolts, limb and everything. And he asks, okay, what do you want, sir? I don't want to die. Brahma says, no, thank you very much. I can't, even I myself die. How can I give you that? Duplicity. Avoid duplicity in dealing with others. Otherwise, the modern executives, they have no clue what the customer is talking. Yeah, we'll do it. We already did it. We have so much of experience. You need to do what you need to do. I'm not saying executives that you shouldn't do, because you will be fired from your job. Vaishyas means you have to lie a little bit, do what you need to do. But in any case, Brahma said, sorry, I'm going to die. So how can I give you the mrityu ichha, vardhan or not that? And then he started off the insurance policy. You know the story, right? I don't want to get into the story. And Lord Narsinghadev came and he killed him anyways. So after that story is done, we'll read the paragraph starting from Sri Isopanisad once. If you come down a little bit, Mata, Sri Isopanisad once. SRI. Yes, please. Who wouldn't read? You want to read, Kamal? You want to try? Who knows? No? Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Anybody wants to do online?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay, then figure out among yourselves who wants to go first and who wants to go next. Please.
Yeah.
I can't see either of you, so that's the reason I'm saying. Not that. Yeah.
Sri Isopanishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead.
Thank you. And the next paragraph, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Yeah.
The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from revealed Vedic scriptures such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary place of his birth as all in all. The Lord has kindly delivered the above mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Here Isopanishad talks about doing both side by side. You really cannot give up this material world by saying, I'm not going to indulge in this world. Because Arjuna's premise was that when in the Bhagavad Gita, he said, Krishna, I don't want to fight because the results I see are horrible. So I don't want to fight. Krishna is saying, you cannot... Mata, come sit here. You, please. She is struggling. Thank you. Just, yeah. Anywhere. All right, now I can see all. So, he said, because of the reactions that I am going to get because of fighting this war, I don't want to fight. And Krishna is saying, you will helplessly fight because it's your nature to fight. It will not stop you from fighting. So then you balance out both. Initially by doing your work, but cultivating the path of spiritual realization simultaneously, then you will be able to go back home, back to Godhead. It is not a one-way traffic. It's not an on-off switch. Ting, okay, I'm spiritual. Ting, no, it doesn't work that way. Krishna says the struggle against material existence, you have to do both. Prematurely, if you do, the only place you can do prematurely is in Bhakti. That is one place where you have that liberty. The reason I say is this. Srila Prabhupada, when he started this mission in 1965, there were many young devotees who gave up their work, who gave up their profession and everything and full-time joined the movement. And they stayed for some time, and some of them continued to be the glorious stalwart devotees. But others, they kind of drifted a little bit away and probably did their studies or took up a job or so on and so forth. Are they losers by that stretch of imagination? The answer is emphatic no, because Bhagavatam says this. Let us look up that verse. Canto 1, chapter 5, Mata, if you can just show. Okay, and if you come down a little bit, please. Let's do Control F fall. Let's do that. No, next one, please. Next is there's the only one. No, the previous one, 19, I guess. Yeah, click on that, Mata, verse number, please. Yes. Even this one also we can do that. 17, let's do 17. It's a popular demand. It's a even this is also good, but we'll do 17. 17 verse, Mataji. Thank you. Kindly repeat after me. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hare. Bhajan apakvo tapate tato yadi. Yatra kvava bhadra babodhamushakim. Yatra kvava bhadramabhodhamushakim. Ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. Translation, please.
One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything.
So there is that aspect. In Bhakti Yoga, it's never lost. But having said that, it all depends also on one's situation. As Ramesh mentioned earlier, if you are working, you have a family and wife and children, then all of a sudden you say, I'll give up all of this stuff and take to devotional service. In exceptional circumstances, yes, you might. But in the normal course of activities, that might not be recommended. Let's see, what else we need to discuss this one. Okay. Therefore, the culture of avidya. Let's read that paragraph. It's really important. Therefore, on the Isopanisad Mataji. Yes.
Therefore, the culture of Vidya or transcendental knowledge is essential for the human being. Sense enjoyment in the diseased material condition must be restricted as far as possible. Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this bodily condition is the path of ignorance and death.
Can you please repeat that statement?
Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this diseased material condition must be restricted as far as possible. Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this bodily condition is the path of ignorance and death.
Thank you.
The living entities are not without spiritual senses. Every living being in his original spiritual form has all the senses, which are now materially manifested, being covered by the material body and mind. The activities of the material senses are perverted reflections of the activities of the original spiritual senses. In his diseased condition, the spirit soul engages in material activities under the material covering. Real sense enjoyment is possible only when the disease of materialism is removed. Should I continue?
So I'll just stop here. So we have spiritual senses. which means that spiritually we have eyes, we have ears, we have tongue, we have nose. When that spirit soul is put into a material body, it's the same spirit soul that powers these senses. If we did not have the spiritual senses, you can't be able to power the material senses. So for example, if originally I was God, as some philosophers say, then I should be able to create planets even in this life. Because God can create planets, I should be able to create planets. But since I cannot, which means in my original state, I can't do that. But because Krishna says in the Gita, remember, he says that the soul is not capable of undergoing change. The soul remains changeless, which means whatever the soul has, it goes with the soul. So similarly, the spiritual senses are also there, but now they are powering the material senses. And unrestrictedly, if we try to enjoy the material senses, then you are just more and more, getting into the karmic cycles. Because Krishna said, remember, Ishavasyam idam sarvam. I created this world and I created everybody their own quotas. Now you start, because of greed or anger or lust, or you start encroaching in those quotas, then you will get bound by the material reactions. And then you will go to a very different way of doing things. Make sense? Okay, and then here it is saying that the same thing as well. So please continue.
In our pure spiritual form, free from all material contamination, real enjoyment of the senses is possible. A patient must regain his health before he can truly enjoy sense pleasure again. Thus, the aim of human life should not be to enjoy perverted sense enjoyment, but to cure the material disease. Aggravation of the material disease is no sign of knowledge, but a sign of avidya, ignorance. For good health, a person should not increase his fever from 105 degrees to 107 degrees, but should reduce his temperature to the normal 98.6. That should be the aim of human life. The modern trend of material civilization is to increase the temperature of the feverish material condition, which has reached the point of 107 degrees in the form of atomic energy. Meanwhile, the foolish politicians are crying that at any moment the world may go to hell. That is the result of advancement of material knowledge and the neglect of the most important part of life, the culture of spiritual knowledge. Sri Isopanisad herein warns that we must not follow this dangerous path leading to death. On the contrary, we must develop the culture of spiritual knowledge so that we may become completely free from cruel hands of death.
Thank you. Questions, comments before we go? One of the questions people ask me is, okay, go ahead, Shiva. Akhil.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I had a question on the part where it mentions you can have real sense enjoyment only when the disease of materialism is removed. I was trying to understand, like, the goal is never to have any sense enjoyment. So what does that mean?
Thank you. So there are two ways to understand this. One is that one can enjoy spiritual senses unrestrictedly. For example, let's look up that verse. No, it's fine. It's fine. Spiritually, one can enjoy one's senses unrestrictedly. Rupa Goswami said that the name of Krishna, or the two syllables Krishna, has produced so much of nectar that one tongue is not enough, and I pray for millions of tongues. Oh my God. Isn't that sense gratification to the highest level? It's like, God, give me 10, 20 tongues so that I can have 20 rasgullas at the same time. So, and then he says that when it enters my ears, I feel that these 2 ears are not enough. I want millions of ears. So spiritually, you can enjoy so much. And the second aspect of it is, If Krishna gives you that sense gratification, then you can enjoy it. Let me give an example. Sudama, he went to Krishna. And we know the story of Sudama. He was an extremely poor Brahmana, to the point that they didn't have much to eat. He was emaciated. The clothes that he was wearing has more holes than the cloth area itself. And his wife was seeing this situation. She said, we have nothing to eat. And your classmate, childhood classmate, is now king of Dwaraka, so why don't you just go and ask him something? And then Sudama says he didn't want to go, but his wife was pretty persistent, as at times, which can be the case, experienced by most. I'll leave it at that. So Sudama said, okay, what should I take him? Then she goes, she begs for husked rice, the flat rice from the neighbors. Usually when you beg, you are not given the best of it. You just give whatever is there you can give. So he took armfuls of that, he wrapped it in a cloth bag like this, and he started to Dwaraka. In Dwaraka, when he went, Krishna was overjoyed. He is the super soul in everyone's heart, and he knew Sudama is coming. So at a distance, he knew that Sudama was coming, and he was in his bedroom with Rukmini. He immediately got out of his bedstead. He went and he received his friend Sudama, and he was like embracing him, saying, oh, Sudama, it's so nice to see you. I'm meeting you after a long time. Please come. He directly brings him to his own bed, and he washes the feet. And he does arti. He gives him wonderful foodstuffs. Rukmini is fanning him. And then Sudama, meanwhile, he never asked anything from Krishna. Really afraid. And he didn't even give him the chipped rice either. And then after sumptuously feeding him and talking about the old days, Krishna said, so, what did you get for me? He was very hesitant. He didn't even want to tell that. I see you got something. And he grabbed Sudama's thing. And he ate one morsel. And then as he was about to eat the second morsel, Lakshmi stopped him. Don't do that. You already gave him this whole world. What will you give? And that was an implicit thing. And he goes back. And then as he goes back, he's seriously seeing, where is my hut? In the place of hut, then, in the modern times, if he had gone back, he would have said, I knew it. I had nothing, but some mafia came and encroached my house, and now they built a big land. No. It's like... But he went, and then his wife came out. He was like, seriously, who are you? I'm your wife. Oh my God, you look so different. And then, he got the opulence more than that of Indra. The point was, Sudama didn't say, oh, Indra, this is all, Krishna, this is all material. Don't give me that. Let me go and go to REI and get a tent and in the same house I'll space. No, he enjoyed the material facilities of Krishna. But the difference is, when Krishna awards you material facilities, he'll make sure that you won't forget him. Shall we look up one verse to say that? Because this afternoon, I know these afternoons can be long in terms of absorption, but we'll keep it nice. Matha 5, 19, 27, 5th canto, 19th chapter, 27th verse. Please pull it up if you can. So is that helpful, Akhil? That sense gratification, under our own things, we will do whatever is allotted by Krishna. But if Krishna gives something, then it's wonderful sense gratification. Other thing is prasadams. Hey, is that sense gratification or not sense gratification? In one sense, yes and both. Depending on your adhikar, depending on so many things. It's good. Okay, kindly repeat after me.
Prabhu,
yes, sir.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Prabhu, if I may, I had a quick follow-up question on the prasadam thing itself. That's what I was thinking about. Prasadam is Krishna's sanctified food or his blessing.
Is that Akhil? Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Akhil.
Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu, I can introduce.
No, go ahead.
Prabhu, so I think there is a restriction on how much you consume even prasadam, like beyond a certain point. it's probably not.
Yes.
Oh, this is what I've heard, Prabhu. I just want to be corrected if I'm wrong there. But so where do we draw the line? Is
So as you advance in spiritual life, you will more and more not think of what I will eat after offering to Krishna, but what Krishna wants. And at a very advanced stage, whatever comes into your plate, you will be grateful. So depending on which level, where are you in terms of advancement? The first stage of advancement is, okay, I don't care about offering to Krishna, I'll eat anything and everything. So at least the level of advancement from there is, I will not eat unless I offer to Krishna. That's the first level. The second level is that slow and slow, what does Krishna want? I want to cook, not for me. And at a very advanced level, you don't endeavor for food, and whatever food comes in whatever form, you will take it as mercy of Krishna. And that's there in Jada Bharat's story as well. So, is that helpful, Akhil? But you are you're right on point. And when we read Nectar of Instruction this semester, Prabhupada actually warns us that you cannot simply say that, Krishna, I'll give you such opulent food. Actually, I wanted to eat paneer today and the rasmalai today. It's not for you, but for me. But I'm saying I love. When somebody comes, you'll say, I offered such opulent food for Krishna. Is that helpful, Akhil?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, please repeat after me. Satyam dishatyartitamartito nrinam naivarthado yat punararthitayataha swayam vidatte bhajatam anichchatam Ichcha pidanam nijapada pallavam. Translation, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead fulfills the material desires of a devotee who approaches him with such motives. But he does not bestow benedictions upon the devotee that will cause him to demand more benedictions again. However, the Lord willingly gives the devotee shelter at his own lotus feet. Even though such a person does not aspire for it, and that shelter satisfy all his desires. That is the Supreme Personality's special mercy.
Makes sense? So, Dhruva performed austerities for how many months? 6 months. And then did the Lord appear? And then what did Dhruva get for his austerities? The pole star or Dhruvaloka. When the Lord, after he gave the pole star and disappeared, did Dhruva say, gee, I made a mistake. Instead of asking one, I should have asked for 3. One for myself, one for rent, and one for sale. No, he said, oh my God, what did I do? Here is the supreme absolute truth. Who can sever the cycle of birth and death in a fraction of a second? Who the yogis will take millions of lives to get darshan of. I was able to see that Lord in 6 months' time. And I was able to get his audience. And yet I asked for this insignificant Dhruvalok. And that is Krishna's special mercy. That even if you approach, so that's the reason why I say to the devotees, if you have full of material desires, and I really, pure devotional service and all that is too much, Krishna, I can't deal with this stuff. And I have so many desires, go approach Krishna with your desires. It's the best of personality. We shouldn't be ashamed because he knows. He's been sitting in your heart since time immemorial. He knows much, much more about you than what you can know. What's the point in hiding from him? I was joking with somebody, it's like, You know, somebody comes in on your door and then the house is completely messy and dirty. You'll say, yeah, give me 2 minutes, let me set the house, and then I'll open the door or whatever, right? But, but if that person is already in the house and outside the house, no, please, I'll come. He's right there. Where are you going to hide? So it's better to be honest with Krishna. Better to be really honest, Krishna. And you might say this is against Bhagavatam. No. Kardama Muni actually was the example of this. He performed austerities and Krishna appeared. And he says, what do you want? I shouldn't be asking you, but I want a wife. And Vishnu didn't palm his head. You called me all the way from Vaikuntha for a wife? Even animals get wives in this world. What's wrong with you? No, he was so gentle with Kardama. He said, yes, I know you want a wife. And second day from now, you will get a wife, and Swayambhuva Manu will come with his daughter. And so he's so merciful. Krishna is merciful to everyone. So it's best to approach him, best to take shelter of him in all places, under all circumstances. Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena jayeta purusham param. Bhagavatam says, whether one is full of desires or no desires or desires for liberation, just worship Krishna. He is the personality who can satisfy you in ways that you can't even imagine. And even if he gives you material, he gives you in such a way, as this verse says, he'll give the shelter of his lotus feet, even though the devotee doesn't want it. And that is his special mercy. And that lotus feet are going to fully satisfy everyone's heart. Make sense? So please, don't hesitate that, Krishna will severely punish me, or I'll be very embarrassed that if I say I want something material. There's no need to be embarrassed, he knows. Because the word embarrass will come when others don't know, and the reaction will be of disdain or condescending way because of you have expressed your desire and weakness. Yes or yes? Then only embarrassment. Otherwise there is no question of embarrassment. Krishna knows, so where is a question of embarrassment? Having said that, please follow the etiquette, at least in the sadhana stage. Krishna knows everything. Then you know what? Krishna, I am going to offer the food. Take it and then it's fine. No. When the sadhana stage, make sure that you have it. But innermost desires, these I am talking. There is a standard paddhati of serving Krishna, and then sharing our own innermost heart. So, Krishna knows. All right, we'll do the last verse, and hopefully we can do it a little early so that you can all get a break and do a marathon before the 3:30 p.m. start. Okay, mantra 12. Andam tama pravishanti.
Andam tama pravishanti.
Ye sambhutim upasate. Tato bhuya ivate tamo. Yau sambhutyam rataha.
Translation. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute.
Okay, again, a tongue twister or a head spinner like the one that we had before. But then the first paragraph, please, of that purport.
The Sanskrit word asambhuti refers to those who have no independent existence. Sambhuti is the absolute personality of Godhead, who is absolutely independent of everything. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, states, Na me vidu suragana prabhavam na maharshaya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences. For in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Thus Krishna is the origin of the powers delegated to demigods, great sages and mystics. Although they are endowed with great powers, these powers are limited, and thus it is very difficult for them to know how Krishna himself appears by his own internal potency in the form of a man.
Thank you. So, for the first part, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada talks about worshipping the demigods. That the worship of the demigods is happening under those who want a quick desire for success. I just want to be successful in this world. Vishnu might not, but I'll take my chances with demigods. And once the demigods serve me, then demigods, goodbye, tata, bye-bye. Right? Think about it. Hiranyakashipu performed how many, we discussed, right? How many years of austerities? Then after he got the powers from Brahma, how many times did he perform the austerities? Bye. In fact, the demons are so bad, actually it's the Bhasmasur. What is the name of the, also that, No, not Bhasmasur. Yeah, Bhasmasur. What was the name of this Bhasmasur? Is I just recently read. It's there in the Bhagavatam. So he asked Shiva for the boon that whoever I touch my hand on my head, on the other person's head, then that person will break into or become ashes. His head will break into 1,000 pieces. And then Shiva gave the boon. He said, let me try it on your own head. And Shiva started running. And then he took shelter of Krishna. And Krishna came as a small boy. And what is the name of that demon? Bhasmasur. It's called Bhasmasur, but there is also some name.
Vritrasura?
Sorry? It's there in 10th canto, 88th chapter.
Vritrasura, Prabhu? Vritrasura?
Vrikasura. Vritrasura is another Vrikasura. Thank you. It's also called Bhasmasur. So, I remember the name Bhasmasur much easily. And you know why. Vrikasura, thank you. So, then so Shiva actually, he took shelter of Lord Vishnu. And then, and Lord Vishnu actually took a form of a small boy. Hey, Vrikasur, where are you going? Well, Shiva gave me this boon. And then I am going to test out on him. Really? You are believing the words of Shiva? He might or might not give you the right information. I wouldn't believe too much on Shiva. Think about it. What if Shiva is wrong? The whole world will laugh at you. That you are trying to chase after Shiva. But then the easy way is you put it on your own head. You know that Shiva is lying, and then you put it on your own head. It's a perfect proof that you have not experienced his curse, which means Shiva is lying, and you can go punish him, and you can mock him in front of the whole world. You should try that. Boom. So when the demigods, worshippers of the demigods are all questionable sometimes. They are not all perfectly pure. And so Krishna says that the demigods, their results might not be permanent. Because the demigods are temporary, the results given by them are also temporary. And then in the next part, he talks about we'll look up one paragraph. This last paragraph we'll read. I know next time, if you want, we'll meet a little early from 12 to 2. But let's see. No. I'm not changing time. We'll keep it. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. We will read the paragraph from Mantra 12. It starts from the problems of life. It's a pretty big purport. Yes.
The problems of life cannot be solved simply by going to the moon planet or to some other planet above or below it. Therefore, Sri Isopanisad advises us not to bother with any destination within this dark material universe, but to try to get out of it and reach the effulgent kingdom of God. There are many pseudo worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. Such pseudo religionists do not wish to get out of this universe and reach the spiritual sky. They only want to maintain the status quo in the material world under the garb of worshipping the Lord. The atheists and impersonalists lead such foolish pseudo religionists into the darkest regions by preaching the cult of atheism. The atheist directly denies the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the impersonalists support the atheists by stressing the impersonal aspect of the Supreme Lord. Thus far, we have not come across any mantra in Sri Isopanisad in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is denied. It is said that he can run faster than anyone. Those who are running after other planets are certainly persons, and if the Lord can run faster than all of them, how can he be impersonal? The impersonal conception of the Supreme Lord is another form of ignorance arising from an imperfect conception of the absolute truth.
Next paragraph, please, and then we can stop. Gayatri, you want to give it a shot? I didn't get a chance.
From the starting?
Yes.
The ignorant pseudo-religionists and the manufacturers of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter the darkest region of the universe because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish people who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself. Such impersonalists do not even worship the demigods according to the spiritual recommendations. In the scriptures, there are recommendations for worshiping demigods under certain circumstances, but at the same time, these scriptures state that there is normally no need for this. In Bhagavad Gita 7.24, it is clearly stated that the results derived from worshipping the demigods are not permanent. Since the entire material universe is impermanent, whatever is achieved within the darkness of material existence is also impermanent. The question is how to obtain real and permanent life.
Thank you. So here, Srila Prabhupada said there are pseudo-religionists and there are so-called incarnations who mislead these pseudo-religionists. And these are the most dangerous elements of the society, and they have a very special place of punishments. Because think about it, one of the common problems in the modern man is there have been so many so-called incarnations. The problem is, we never said we are God. Their followers claim them to be God. But we said we are never God. But then you didn't even deny that you are not God, Krishna is God. You let your followers blindly get into the well by not denying it as well. That's where the problem comes. Or you are ignorant, but you somehow foolishly accepted the position of God. How is that a situation? Right? Makes sense? So this is what is mentioned. Srila Prabhupada writes further in terms of these. More questions. I'll read the last paragraph of this particular purport, and then we can take more questions, comments, and then we can call it a day. These rogues, thank you. These rogues are the most dangerous elements in the human society. Because there is no religious garment, they escape punishment by the law of the state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Bhagavad Gita that envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown into the darkest region of the hell. Sri Isopanisad confirms that these pseudo-religionists are heading towards the most obnoxious place in the universe after completing their spiritual master business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification. Spiritual master is a very serious position, it's a very grave position. Those who take shelter of a spiritual master have the assurance that by following strictly the spiritual master, I'll go back to Krishna. And the spiritual master should have that kind of, can give that kind of assurance to the disciples. Otherwise, Just to be a spiritual master for maintaining your body is the most abominable thing that you can do in this world. Yeah. So strictly speaking, the Isopanisad mantra is not aimed against absolute, as in Krishna absolute, but this sort of quote-unquote absolute. That's where it is being talked about. Any questions, any comments? Hey, good to see you, Rohini Dulal Prabhu. And there is Vishwapati Prabhu, and there's Deepika, Ramesh, Bhavika. Some names I can read, some names I cannot. Naveen and Preeti I can see. Suresh, Akhil. Some names are too far from here. I cannot read. Shri Gopi Ganesh. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining. Any final questions, comments? Yes, Rohini Dulal Prabhu and Mataji. And then Avi.
Dhanavad Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I'm trying to understand the translation more, Prabhu. It says that the worshippers of the demigod, they enter into the darkest region. So, of course, I understood the Vrikasura's example, but in Bhagavad Gita it is also said that Anti Deva Vratan Deva Pitranyanti Pritanvataha. So the worshippers of demigods may reach to the planets of the demigods also. So when this verse says that they reach to the darkest regions, is it talking from the absolute standpoint or?
Correct. It's from the absolute point, because the demigods are misleading people. Now, this is the deal. If you go to heavenly planets and you enjoy excessively in heavenly planets with heavenly planet enjoyment, oh my God, it's amazing. It's out of this world. I mean, you think that is Vaikuntha, that's where I should go. And when you go to the heavenly planets to enjoy, but when your credit card runs out and you come back to this world, the spirit of enjoyment will remain. So you try to enjoy here, it is even going to degrade you to further. So it might not happen immediately. The spirit of sense enjoyment can drag you down to the lowest, not immediately. So this verse doesn't say immediately.
Okay.
Right? It makes sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. And it is also said that the upper planets people in upper planets, they are in mode of goodness. It's becoming a little difficult for me to comprehend when it says they go into the lower.
So if you worship the demigods, you won't go to hell. You will go to the heavenly planets, but because you will get accustomed to that kind of lifestyle, please understand that demigods have two types of mercy. One is the actual mercy and one is the cheating mercy. The cheating mercy is given to those who are completely blind. For example, was it the same Brahma who spoke the prayers in the 14th canto of Bhagavatam? Verses that are so beautiful. Verses Chaitanya Charitamrita says is the essence of all Vedas. And Brahma actually, he read Vedas 3 times, cover to cover, scrutinizingly trying to understand Vedas. And he comes to the conclusion that Krishna, you are Lord. So why did not Brahma tell this to Hiranyakashipu? Exactly. So the demigods will give you what you need to get. They are not going to give you everything that they know. So when they give you benedictions, yes, you will go to heavenly planets, but then you will fall down again without having sufficient knowledge. You will go back to hellish, glide from earth, from heaven to earth, back to hell, if you're not self-controlled. Is that helpful?
Yes, Lord. Yes,
and then other thing is, tama, darkness means worshipping demigods, you will stay in this world. This world is full of darkness. That's anything Prabhupada says. Why are you wasting your time in the world of darkness? Even if you go to heavenly planets, it is still within this material world, and this material world is dark. So in that sense, the darkness is also. So both the places it's mentioned. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, Mata, you have a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have 2 questions.
So I did not understand who are pseudo-religionists. Can you just give
Yes.
like an example from today's world?
People who kill in the name of religion are pseudo-religionists, whether be it any religion. It really doesn't matter. One example is, this is my religion, and your religion is a false religion. Because you follow a different religion other than mine, I have every right to kill you. That is just a pseudo-religion. You are a religionist, but you don't even have the basic culture of human being, let alone be a religionist. That's one thing. Second thing is people who worship, who perform religious activities just for name and fame. Just for, every single thing I do has to be on the Facebook or WhatsApp, just to show off to the world. or some social media, just to show that I'm a great religionist. I really don't have any faith in religion. Religion is a mean to actually promote myself. 2 examples I can think of.
So Prabhu, that's how everyone is nowadays. Like if we are not, like now everyone else who's from different religion, they don't accept any other. Everyone is so, they feel, I remember when we went to LA and there's this Prabhuji who used to go do kirtan on the pier, and there were these people who were on the speakers and they were saying something about Jesus.
Yeah.
And when we were passing them, they started cursing us and they started shouting, and these people are false. And I was thinking that there is just no harmony. We don't accept each other religion. So that's how everyone is. So we all are pseudo-religions.
Well, I mean, if a person who's of a different faith walks into the temple, do we say that? No, we accept it, right? We don't condemn them. Actually, Prabhupada writes really, we read this. Actually, I'm very grateful that you brought up, because this is, Prabhupada actually writes in the, let's look it up. Here, I think it starts off with, in the 7th paragraph, there is a statement, there are many pseudo-worshippers who become religionists only for the sake of name and fame. So, just wanted to add to that. But before that, it's mentioned in that Krishna comes and he gives religious instructions in different places, in different countries, according to their own situation. You remember we reading that? I'll pull it up next time. I don't want to waste time. But Krishna, actually God, he gives religious instructions in different parts of the world according to how much you can accept. The fact that Vedas came from India, or Hindus came from India, and Christianism and Islamism is like a different. No, it's actually path to the same God. And Krishna sent his prophets and Jesus or Muhammad based on the knowledge and the absorption rate of the people at that point of time. And ultimately they are going to the same God. Because here is the thing, if there are multiple gods, then there will be war of gods. And we have to select which will be the victor God and which will be the loser God. The victor God is the right God. The loser God will punish all the people, right? If I follow this God, he becomes the loser, the victor God will punish me. There's only one truth. Every religion accepts it as such. But somehow, as I said, those who are really immature and who are on the platform of false ego, they think my religion is better than your religion, my God. Yeah, right. Your God is your servant. He will tell how you want to, or it's other way around. Is that helpful, Mita?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm really curious why Hiranyakashipu did not directly go to Vishnu for the boons, for the why he did not direct his penances or austerities toward Vishnu, who could have given him everything, whatever he desired, but he just went for Brahma. I remember there is an example, or the story I read, where when Hiranyaksh died, he was preaching that, how soul is temporary and how death is he was wise, I guess, but he didn't directed his austerities towards Vishnu.
Because Vishnu was his enemy, he was not his God. And Brahma was his God, because Brahma is the creator of the universe. See, demons also recognize God, everybody else except Vishnu. By nature, they are against the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. But other gods are, I can get boons and then I can ignore. But Vishnu, no. Vishnu is my enemy, I need to kill him. In fact, he was so dead against Vishnu, his son tried to worship, he said, how dare you worship my enemy? So the vision of demons is that Vishnu is my enemy. I need to kill him rather than worship him. How dare I even go? In fact, Hiranyakashipu is here, he will be insulted. How dare you say I should worship Vishnu, who is my enemy? I'll kill you.
So they approach demigods for any boon or any desires.
They know the fact that they are helpless without that power. But then demigods are the only source or the knowledge, because their knowledge is covered. Vishnu covers the demoniac people's knowledge by accepting his supremacy. So they think like that. You get the idea.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other questions? Is there any demon who actually worshipped Vishnu? Yes, of course, Vritrasura. He's not a demon per se, but Vritrasura, in technical sense, he's a demon. Because his prayers are amazing. It's like when we get a chance, we'll belt out his prayers. I'm truly astounded by his prayers. His prayers are worth memorizing. And
follow up to that.
Yes, sir.
Since you established the demon as someone who doesn't accept the supremacy of Vishnu, and then we have example of Vritrasura accepting. So did he stop becoming a demon after that? Why do you still keep coming?
So demoniac nature, there are always exceptions. Krishna himself says, when we do the third semester of Bhakti Sastri, we will do the 10th chapter of Gita. He says, Prahaladas chasmi daityanam. Amongst the demons and the daityas, I am Prahlad. Which means that none of the demoniac people can exist without the Lord, but by and large their nature is such they are against, but there are always exceptions. Because Krishna wants to prove the point, even if you are a demon, you can worship me. It's not a disqualification. But in case of Vritrasura, of course, it's very, very unique, because he was Maharaj Chitraketu. He performed severe austerities, worshipped Lord Anantadev. Then he was cursed by Mother Parvati to become Vritra. But even though he became a demon, his devotion was not covered to Lord Vishnu. Just goes to prove the power of bhakti to Vishnu that he didn't cover. Is that helpful? Vibhish, yes, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, I remember reading that Rakshasas differ from demons in terms of physical features. Demons look like, because when Ravana was described, he was described as most beautiful.
You have to keep it close.
Yeah, he was described as beautiful, powerful. So in my understanding, then the only way to distinguish demon from normal humans is their acceptance of. But then we say even demons can be devotees.
Because if you demon, then Krishna is not Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. If he is barring demons as a class to not worship him, which means that he is not, equal to the demons. Or it can be a disqualification to worship the Lord because you are in a demoniac family. Then how is it Krishna being equal to all? But so to satisfy both, Krishna says, my bhakti is not even dependent on being demon. You can be a demon, still worship me, but it's exceptionally rare. But it's not impossible. The other point, Vritrasura's story was that Mother Parvati cursed him, but his devotion was not lost, which shows that Vishnu's bhakti can never be lost, even in curses or any situation. In fact, if you read the story of Vritra and Indra, it's clearly proven that Vritra is much superior than Indra, his devotion. All right, we will stop here. And then, Akhil, you have a question? I'll answer in 2.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
It's okay if we take it next week.
No, tell me the question, I can give the answer. Let me see a one-word answer to that.
Prabhu, this is with regards to what Rohini Dalal Prabhu said when it comes to demigods. Even this was from a class last year, I think Mukharvan Prabhu's Saturday class. He spoke about the Brahma Samhita glorifying, or not glorifying, but paying obeisances to Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma. So, I was trying to understand, they are in those positions because they are devotees of the Lord. They can't be there without being devotees of the Lord. So, and we do worship exalted devotees. So, I'm trying to reconcile why do we make that distinction? Is it a distinction because of how, what is our viewpoint while we worship, or there is a big difference?
No, actually, I'll give the one-line answer. We worship the demigods as servants of Krishna. Simple. We respect everyone. What to speak of exalted demigods? We worship Prabhupada and we worship him on the same level as Krishna. But that doesn't mean we see Krishna and Prabhupada as the same or interchange them. It's ridiculous to kind of say, okay, let's move Krishna here and Prabhupada. No, it doesn't work that way, even though they are given the same respect. So demigods are also given the same respect as Krishna, but as subordinates of Krishna, we worship them. Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. He is the greatest of the Vaishnavas. So if we can worship Prabhupada, then why don't we worship Shiva? Of course we can worship Shiva. But not with the mentality that it is either Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma. Nope. So that's the attitude of the worshipper matters. Okay.
Yes,
not the worship in of itself.
That clarifies things. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. All right. So we'll stop here. I'm so grateful. I know this has been a particularly heavy afternoon for all of us. It's Ekadashi, and we'll meet in 2 weeks' time. I'm so grateful to all of you for coming. And please forgive me for any offenses or mistakes. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha.